This half hour being brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory, all with great warranties, by the way, and great variety. Terrific pre-owned inventory. You have the Sunbury Motors guarantee because you over each vehicle in the lot. And the service department makes it one-stop shopping. Whether it happens to be quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. One of the privileges of the job for me that I enjoy so much is I get to talk to Neal Coolong every week. Sir, welcome back.
As always, the pleasure is mine being here. I'll take that from you, but otherwise, the show is yours, and I'm grateful just to be a part of it.
Well, I appreciate you very much. The Steeler performance on Sunday night was baffling in so many ways, but Aaron Rodgers looked like a 41-year-old man trying to play quarterback.
Yeah, I think that was probably, in my mind, that was the part that you walk away after the game and say, all the other stuff, we can pick apart each bit of it if we want, but the main talking point here is that the Steelers very well could have a quarterback that ran out of gas at midseason, and that shouldn't come as a huge surprise. It's happened a couple times already recently, so it's a problem that I don't think they have a solution to. There's only so much that you're going to get out of some players, but the quarterback is the one above anybody else that can't take a break. And it's not as if they have a backup plan that can work. I don't want to hear about Will Howard. Mason Rudolph's been given that opportunity. It's not like you can just come up with, Rodgers has a hamstring injury and you're going to sit him for 2 weeks. This is the plan. It's ride or die with Rodgers. You're really hoping to get at least 17 games out of him. That's what the Steelers are going to have to do. But what we saw, it doesn't speak well to an upcoming difficult schedule. Road games are going to be a part of that. I forget if they're on prime time from here on out. But an offense is not going to move well if your quarterback is not playing consistently well. I think they've gotten some decent play out of Rodgers by and large, but I think we've seen some cracks in that the last couple of weeks, and it really busted open against the Chargers. He was bad. Some bad decisions. The ball did obviously not go where he wanted it to go. Looked to me like he was forcing some throws, and Rodgers doesn't have the margin of error is just too thin for Rodgers to force anything. You heard Troy Fatanu after the game talking about how they've got to give him more time if he's going to hang on to the ball. They don't have an offense in which he can hang on to the ball. He's got to get rid of it. So I'm not sure if it's a game planning thing as much of a Rodgers decision thing, but the reality is what they asked him to do on Sunday night, he was not up to doing, and they don't have a whole lot of time to get this figured out. They've lost 3 of 4. They've only played well, even reasonably well, in one of those games.
Right.
So they've got it's tough. You could see this falling apart in a hurry, but we usually say that right before they come out and play 10 times better than they did previously and kind of keep things above water. It's just we've been waiting for 6 years for the other shoe to fall. This very well could be it. It's not like they played a great game defensively. Didn't have much of a chance, but as Mike Tomlin says week after week now, the defense fell apart late because they've been on the field too long. Well,
right.
You need a defense that can stay on the field longer. I mean, it's not rocket surgery. You're not going to get a great output from this offense every single week, and you're paying the defense what you are. They've got to play a lot better as well. But the bottom line for me is that you have a quarterback that was nowhere near as good as the other quarterback, and that team tends to lose the game, pretty consistently across the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think that something that is rarely, if ever, talked about. But on the college side of it, we always talk about you get to like mid-October and a freshman will hit the wall because they practice longer and there's more intensity than at any point. Basketball, we always say it's February 1st. And then the really good ones bounce back. sometimes with older players, like I think you put it perfectly. I think exactly what you said. Sometimes with an older player, you get to that mid-season point and you start to run out of gas because now you're getting tired. And that includes mentally.
Yeah, I think it's more mentally than anything else. And it's that part. If you're being drugged down physically, it's hard to keep that mental side going all the time. And it's more like after week 1, you can recover to about 98%. After week 2, you recover to 95, and so on down. Now, your best is 83, 84%. Mm-hmm. And that's starting to be noticeably not good enough. How do you refresh that? I don't know. I mean, it seems more of a science question than anything else. It's difficult to get that much more, but to me, it's more in you've got to take less off of his plate. You've got to be able to pick up stuff somewhere. You can shorten drives by something other than punting. If you can get some plays down the field, get some guys that can make plays after the catch, shorten these drives up a bit. But Rodgers is out there a pretty good amount of time. I don't have it in front of me, but the Steelers take a long time to score 3 points. That's been their MO for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. That's going to take a toll after a while. If that's one more hit per drive, if it's one more kind of contorted body throw, that's going to have a bigger impact as the season goes on to your quarterback physically than it will early on. Keep in mind too, it's colder. It's a little harder to come back. Less time between games, and in some cases, you're even lower going into the next game, and that always seems to have a detrimental effect for a couple weeks. I remember the COVID year, when that Ravens game kept getting pushed back. You had this unofficial, weird NFL-imposed bye week. They played way off of schedule, but then they had no time to get ready for their next game, and they got crushed. It wasn't a surprise that happened. I think they won one more game the rest of the season. Yeah. Not to say that's the position the Steelers are going to be in, but you're not going to be able to refresh them to get back to that 100% level. You just have to hope that that they can really kind of keep him wrapped up and stretched out at least as much as possible during the week, keep his muscles warm and get him out there and get as close to that 100% level as you can from this point. But I don't know how much more physically they can get from Aaron Rodgers the rest of the way. They're going to have a lot of other guys pick it up, and I'm not sure what I'm seeing. I'm not sure how possible that's going to be. Yeah,
see, that's what strikes me is that you don't feel like there's anybody out there that can bail him out. And I do feel like Jaylen Warren, though, looks like he's playing a little bit better for them as time goes.
Yeah, Warren, unfortunately, in a really bad game that nobody is going to discuss positively, Warren had one of the best games of his career. Yeah. He's really showing to be, in my opinion, one of the better running backs in the NFL. He's very difficult to take down on with just one guy. He's quick. He's elusive. He does a lot of things very well. And I thought it was interesting. Somebody asked point blank why Jaylen Warren doesn't play every snap. Mm-hmm. Tomlin's response was something to the effect of he can't play every down. I don't think you take that literally so much. There are situations for other guys that he's not a part of. He gets out there quite a bit. Situationally, it might be a couple snaps less than somebody else, but he's not an every down guy. And as probably the only person that was really saying the Steelers are limiting themselves by bringing in a guy like Le'Veon Bell and making him instrumental to every package that you have, that's going to be a problem at some point. You have to have diversity among your running backs because that gives you diversity in play calling and packages. That's kind of what I would imagine. It seems like the Steelers have been trying to put together since those days anyway, and different guys for different situations. And frankly, Kenneth Gainwell has showed he can play within this offense as well. It doesn't need to be Warren making that play every single time he's out there, but Warren does enough on 25 snaps that your offense should have a spark. If Warren can open things up for other people, you would think that would happen by now. Clearly, their wide receivers are not getting any better. The team offered a 4th and a 6th for Jacoby Myers, a player that probably would be a more shorter field possession type of guy. Yep. They're obviously not. They wouldn't offer that up if they were pleased with what they have at the wide receiver position. They're using Darnell Washington far more than they are Pat Fryermuth, and that's been the case for at least a month now. They're not happy with their personnel on offense overall. They're certainly not the ones that they've paid and they've put into these prominent positions. So I don't know what that means in season. They're going to have to figure it out, but that's on your coaching staff. That's something that they're going to need to come up with, because while I don't think Jalen Warren should lose snaps by any stretch, he should be carrying the ball a good chunk of the time. I don't think just increasing the amount of times that you give him the ball is going to make anything better. It's going to catch up to him eventually. You want that fresh player. You want that explosive ability that he has. He does that well in doses. I don't think giving him more is going to help the problem, but they need other guys to be able to step up and make some plays.
I have to give Chris Collinsworth a lot of credit. He was really obsessed with Jalen Ramsey playing safety. So, and I think he's a good safety. I think it's been a good move for him.
Yeah, Ramsey brings the type of physicality that you want out of that position. I think Ramsey does well in short spaces, in competitive spaces. I think Ramsey can be good. Teams are setting themselves up to get Ramsey on the move, though, and that's becoming more and more of a problem. Laterally, he's not very fast. You can see it.
Right.
He seems to be at a speed disadvantage with everybody that he's gone up against in a one-on-one fashion that we've seen this year. If he is close, he's very, very strong, physical. He plays with balance. He knows what to do, but if you get him in the open field and you're able to run away from him, you've got a big play opportunity. And in that regard, I think as far as his run-stopping assignments, as far as, short zone, hook-to-curl stuff, if he's down there, he can do that. But if you get him locked up on the outside and he's got, him and the receiver, then the boundary after it, that ball can go over the top of him, to a receiver who's pretty open. I'm worried about the deeper stuff down the side. That puts a cover two scheme more at risk. That's why I don't think they're really running that. It doesn't seem like they're running that as much. It's a lot more cover three, which doesn't really give you the help underneath where they're getting killed. Hello, Cincinnati Bengals coming this week.
Yeah.
There are benefits and there are negatives to it, but 10,000-foot level, let's go over each and every one of the several moves the Steelers have made at safety this season and off season leading up until now, and recognize that they've worked so well. They just cut one of their signees. They just signed a rookie undrafted free agent to their roster with Deshaun Elliott out, who got an extension. They've suffered tremendously on the back end as far as their safeties go. Nothing has worked. This is a team that really needed somebody to step up and help lead the group, help be kind of the tip of the spear. And I'm not saying that should have been Minkah Fitzpatrick, but you can't look at that deal now and say, oh, this was a robbery for them. This is great. You moved a slot back into the safety position because of the 4 free agents that you brought in. None of them filled that role. Yeah. That's a problem to me. Juan Thornhill cost you some money. You had him for half the season. Now you decide he's not good enough, and you signed a nobody to replace him, essentially.
Yeah.
It's funny when Cleveland cut DeMonte Kaiser.
Yeah.
It was the same type of thing that seemed like Thornhill was having an issue with. Well, I'm not playing anymore. I want to go somewhere that I'm going to play. Okay, if that's what you want, that's fine. You're not getting off the practice squad anywhere because you're not really playing good football. And the Steelers thought Thornhill was going to be their guy. He was a starter early in the season. They've misevaluated that position to the point where, yes, Collinsworth is excited because it's fun to see a future Hall of Famer switching positions like that, but it's not like it's a big improvement. And if it is, it only goes to show, in my eyes anyway, how badly your safeties are playing to begin with.
I think that's exactly the point right there. That's why we talk to you. You get to the point. The schedule doesn't do them any favors. Now, they have to do their own favors, but this schedule doesn't do them any favors, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're perennial November, December underdogs. Let's be honest. They've gotten this path many times. Pick a Tomlin special out of that. I'm sure they're going to come in and somehow or other upset the Lions. Take 2 off of the Ravens. It's just what they do. They're playing on par for where they normally are. I think their record, to me, I said this last year as well, that the record that they ended the season with was a lot more reflective of who they were than the 10-3 that they started with, or whatever it was. they're not that good. They've overachieved a bit. I was worried about that when they were looking at 4-1 with a tricky streak in front of them. Now that really ends. This was a game that you hoped would be pretty even, but a team that maybe some of their hole could be a little bit more than the Chargers at that point, especially when the Chargers have gone through multiple offensive line combinations. Both tackles have been out for a significant amount of time. They should be able to compete at a good level with this team, but this is going to end up being a fulcrum kind of game. If they win this, going into the game, knowing Baltimore had a tough road game that they didn't really struggle a whole lot with, Baltimore's making a charge. They're far better than a 1-5 team, and they know that. They're going to be there at the end. Yep. They have to win this to keep that cushion going a little bit, because they've got to be ahead going into 2 games against Baltimore at the end of the season. They're going to have to find ways to pull these games out. In the past, they always have. I'm less confident now that they can just reset, just because I feel like they've got a couple too many holes in the boat that they could bail out. So they're going to have to find something. They're going to have to create some type of offense and some type of explosion on defense. It's great to get 5 takeaways in a game on defense, but then you go yet another game without any and get basically sleptwalked on the road and have to come back and play a key rival at home, a team that really put the hurting on you defensively just a couple weeks ago. This is a must-win game for them now, and entering into must-win season in Week 11 is not where you want to be. If you're a contender, Week 11 is the start of the real season.
Yeah.
This is where it really starts to matter. If the Steelers are kind of behind the 8 ball just from a momentum standpoint, I don't like their chances. They're going to have to find a different way to manufacture some offense, and they're going to have to find a better way to cover teams short and deep. Otherwise, they're just going to get bombed on all day, which I wouldn't be at all surprised. That's what Cincinnati wants to do come Sunday.
Is there any part of this that's a coaching problem, or is this more of this is the personnel they acquired problem, and you've got to make the best of it?
I think that this to me is really what the trademark of this slide to mediocrity that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have been in. They build a team that seems only equipped to play 10, 11 games a year.
Yeah.
They go into these little slides and these mini slumps, but they seem completely dead down the stretch. And I think that I'm worried that they're entering that earlier than they normally would, and I don't know if they have the gas to get out of it. We can call that a coaching issue. Really, you've got to manage personnel along with coaching hand in hand. It's not just one thing. Both of them come together. Arthur Smith, I think, in my opinion, and this is not one that's commonly shared, I think he's done a great job on script. He's put stuff together that they've typically executed well with.
Yes.
Probably not so much against the Chargers, but they've been on a little bit of a heater the last month or so. Their first or second offensive series has been productive. You've seen what they've tried to do. It seems like they run out of steam at the end, though. Like they only have 25 plays and they need 50. So how do you bridge that gap? You've got to add to it. You've got to bring things out that have worked. You've got to put some creative wrinkles into it. I don't know if they have enough talent to do that. I don't know if they have enough time to do that. But once again, it just seems like a day late and a dollar short by the end. They're not able to execute consistently enough to get to the stuff situationally that they want to do, and they end up behind. And that's really been the story in a 3 or 4 loss slump. The 3 losses have been characterized very much like that. They were not on schedule. They got off and weren't able to come back with anything. They can't throw punches with teams. That's always kind of been, for as bad as it is, a Steelers trademark. They're able to stand toe-to-toe with people and give them the business in their way. It doesn't always work, obviously, but they can beat teams that are better than them by dragging them down and making them play their game. That's not happening anymore, and that's why I think a lot of these games are over by halftime, or you can feel that it's going to go downhill really quick, and it's done quickly into the third quarter, like the last 3 losses have been.
Yeah. No, this is a team that needs to get to the lead, play with the lead. Simple as that. That's their best shot. As always, brilliant. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you more than you know.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
The great Neal Coolong joining us on the show today. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.